Now we go in this a little bit more practical, and I believe I shared this with you, which is the Wealthbook e-workbook. It's a practical book that you do it yourself, which helps you understand your whole financial picture. For you to be able to be financially wealthy, right? Money in this case, you actually need to know where you are and where you want to go. And so I always tell people you have to start out with a wealth plan. You actually have to have a personal life wealth plan, whereby you have a strategic plan on how you'll be able to grow and manage your wealth. Because when you're doing this plan, you'll be able to come up with strategies yourself or with a wealth advisor, and then that will ensure that you actually achieve what you want to do. So with that, I would just go ahead and just go in and see if I'll go ahead and unmute for just a second so that I can be able to answer any questions that you may have. So first, I'll be able to let you unmute yourself, and we can talk a little bit about the workbook and see how that goes. So one moment, please. Participants. All right. So I see we have Wandai, Nyokabi, Nyambura, and Diana. I've gone ahead and asked to unmute you. So what I'd like here to know is if you actually went through the e-workbook and if you have any questions before I go on in regards to practically planning your wealth. I'll start off with Nyokabi. Hello, Nyokabi, how are you doing today?
Hello. I'm
Good. Good morning.
I'm good. Yeah.
Great. So I believe you received the e-workbook. Did you get a chance to go through it and the 8 steps about creating wealth?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay.
I have not gone through the booklet.
Okay.
I didn't go through the booklet.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm planning on doing so after this session.
All right. Hopefully
Some
after
point
this workshop, you'll actually go in and do it, because it actually helps you write down your goals, because like I've mentioned, you actually have to have a vision of the life. God says that you actually, his plans are better than your plans, right? Are bigger, right? Like you don't know what God has in store for you. But if you have no plans, then, you know, what is God supposed to do, right? So that's actually the first step. So maybe Wandai, did you get a chance to go through the wealth plan, and do you have any questions?
Hi, Anne. I have not gone through it.
Okay.
But I will definitely do. You know, I am in this journey. I'm striving to do better. So I will definitely do.
All right. What about you, Diana? Did you get a chance to go through the wealth plan? And do you have any questions about that before I go in to continue about the 8 steps that I believe you need to create wealth?
I actually did have a chance, and oh my God, there was a lot to do, but I do actually have a question, and the question is around if you're starting out and you want to start to save more regularly, is there a certain percentage that you actually recommend to start, like you say 5% or 10% of your income, like, you know, when we retire 10% of whatever you make, you know? So is there a particular percentage that you do recommend to start, or should be a goal that we should strive for to start saving on a regular basis?
Okay, that's a really good question. I always say in the Bible, it talks about 10% to God. And if you're giving to God, you should also give to yourself. So I usually recommend you give 10% towards a saving for yourself. That should be the minimum that you give yourself. So whatever income that you make, You give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, so you pay the taxes that you have to pay, but then to God, you give 10%, yourself, you give 10%, and then from there, which is the minimum, and then from there, you're able to then now use the remaining money to do what you need to do in regards to your life. And the 10% is the minimum, because that's what actually goes into actual savings. And I will actually go into that slide and just go through the 8 steps and maybe make it a little bit clear for you, so that we can do that. So if you look, current slide. If you look at the 8-step process that I believe is the right way to create wealth, the first thing, like I mentioned, is you actually have to understand where you are. So you actually have to do a financial net worth calculation. And a financial net worth calculation is just basically understanding your assets, which is what you own, and understanding your liabilities, which is what you owe, right? So the difference between what you owe and what you own is actually what your financial net worth is. So you always want to make sure you have a positive financial net worth. So if you own more than you owe, then you're fine. The problem happens is when you owe more than you own, and that means your negative financial net worth, and so you are not able to actually achieve what you want to do, which means you cannot even leave an inheritance for your children, because basically you've eroded everything that you owe. So you own, sorry. So that's the first thing. The second thing is where, Diana, you're talking about savings. Cash flow management is very key. So when you're actually starting on your journey of creating wealth, you actually have to have what I call cash flow management. It's better than saying budgeting, which is the B word, but really it is budgeting. You actually have to understand, how much money am I making? How much money am I spending? And then actually being very practical about that. Like I say, if you actually know this is how much money I'm making, I'll just use simple terms. So you say I'm making 100,000, 10%, 10,000 I give to God, to God's work, however that is to you. You know, that's a conversation with you and your God and whatever your beliefs are. And then you say 10% comes to me, right? Right. So then now you start off with savings. But I always talk about, and I will be talking about the difference between savings and investing. I always believe that you should not put money in a savings more than 3 or maximum 12 months of your monthly expenses, because then you're missing the point about creating wealth. So you will start saving and then you'll get into investment. The third thing is credit and debt management. This is very critical. Even the Bible talks about someone who owes is a slave to the person who lends. Yeah, the borrower is a slave to the lender, because when you borrow, you will always owe the person that has lent to you. And so you have to be wise around debt, because there's nobody wealthy who's actually made it without getting into debt, right? So you actually have to get the right debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. And I believe that the good debt is when you're actually getting debt to acquire an asset, right? If you're getting into debt to be able to buy a home or to buy land, or you're looking to actually grow your business, those are good debts, and you actually have to have a plan of how to pay it back. But any kind of debt that you get in regards to whereby you're just borrowing just for consumption, just to go and get a vacation, go buy clothes, things like that, that is not the right way. And you do not want to be a slave to somebody for frivolous things, right? So you want to be very careful about that. The fourth thing is about insurance planning. You always have to protect your assets. You have to protect your assets. You've worked very hard, you've acquired assets, you have to protect your assets. And when you talk about assets, it's what you value, because it's what you own, right? So most people, when they think about insurance, they think about maybe car insurance, house insurance, but there's also life insurance, right? Because one of the things when you, and this is around family, especially if you have children, you never know what will happen in the future. Yes, we have faith that we'll live for many years and will live a great life, but you never know what God has in plan for you. So in situations like life insurance, especially if you have children, you actually have to be able to say, how much, if anything was to happen to me, if I was to pass away, I want to make sure that my children are protected. Remember, it goes back down to family. I have to make sure that even if I'm not there, they will still be able to live the life they would have lived if I was there. So then you start looking at how much money or insurance do I need to pay off all my debt? How much insurance or money will I need so that I can be able to take my children to school, give them a cushion to start life on? So when you're really talking about insurance planning, you really need to see what is it that I can do, and what products can I use that will help me and my family in this wealth creation journey. And then the fifth thing is tax planning. A lot of people don't understand the tax incentives that they can get that are given by government, right? So you really need to be able to talk to a tax advisor and say, look, what can I do? One of the things, for example, is maximum you can deduct out of paying tax, in this case in KRA, in Kenya, is 200. If you invest 240,000, which is 20,000 a month, into a pension that is through the Retirement Benefits Authority, you can deduct that when you're doing your taxes. All of you, your taxes are due by June 30th, right? And you know that you're paying taxes, which was usually 30% of your income, and then now has been reduced to 25. Or if you had capital gains and you had wealth, then it's usually 5%. But then now one of the tax planning incentives is you can actually deduct the pension, the money you're saving for retirement. You can deduct it when you're doing your taxes, so you pay less to government. So one of the things about creating wealth is about wealth knowledge, and it's about being wise. And I love the book of Proverbs because it always talks about wisdom. You have to be wise about it. So you actually gain the knowledge. Talk to people who've gone before you and know some of these things so that you can take advantage of them. The sixth thing is about retirement planning. We're all gonna grow old. It's just life. So what you want to do is, you do not want to be a burden to your children, right? You want to be in a place whereby you're living this great lifestyle when you're young and when you're older. So you have to plan. God talks about planning. So you have to do that. The seventh step is really about wealth accumulation. This is where Ali mentioned to you is the secret of the wealthy. They are always accumulating wealth. And there are different investment options, which I'll talk later on in the program. And the last thing is estate planning. This is critical. And I'll give you a story later on about examples in the Bible where you see when somebody realized that they had reached the time when they will actually pass on to be with the Lord, they actually brought in their family and their children, and they told them, this is what I would like you to have, or this is what you need to do. So beforehand, they actually have planned that. So estate planning is very key. And if you look at the Wealthbook that you got during this preparation of this workshop, it actually tells you the different things that you can take, the different tools that you can do in regards to estate planning. So with this, what I will say after the workshop, just go in, look at that Wealthbook e-workbook, go through these 8 steps, and by the time you finish your 8 steps, you'll be able to answer the critical question, which is, what is the vision for your life? What is your wealth vision? What do you want to achieve a year from now? What do you want to achieve 5 years from now? What do you want to achieve 20 years from now? Because once it's very clear what it is that you want to achieve within that time period, then now you can start taking the steps that you need to do to actually actualize that. My people perish from lack of knowledge. My people perish for lack of vision. So you have to start with the vision, with the knowledge, so that then you can thrive.